Florida.
National labor shortage declared a crisis. Federal ban lifted to allow government-funded abortions. Another pipeline to close. And UFOs surrounding a Navy ship. This is the June 4th, 2021 report, and this is the Brief Newsbrief, where a Christian can get caught up on a week's worth of news in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Isaac Lopez, and this show is presented by the Life-Giving Radio. Stick around for the brief breakdown where we discuss why a Christian teacher was suspended for his faith, and why that's actually a good thing. Beginning in politics. Microsoft and other businesses approached DC and showed how Russia's SVR, an intelligence company, hacked into the communications company that oversees the U.S.'s international development and sent emails to different groups with links to malware that would give the Russians access to information. The U.S. dismissed this as a common everyday cyber conflict. The GOP blocked a bipartisan push to form a commission to look into the January 6th Capitol riot. According to a recent report, inflation is at its highest since '92, and this is prior to Biden's $6 trillion budget, which is soon to be introduced. Under Biden's new budget, the Hyde Amendment is not included. This amendment initially blocked federal funding for abortion under Medicaid. Prior to 1980, when this amendment came into play, federally funded abortions were estimated to be at 300,000 each year. In Texas, Democrats staged a walkout during a meeting of the state Senate last Sunday night to avoid a new voting law that is to be passed. The move may have only delayed the bill, but certainly stopped it from passing right away. New York Times reports that the bill is known as SB 7, included new restrictions on absentee voting, granted broad new autonomy and authority to partisan poll watchers, escalated punishments for mistakes or offenses by election officials, and banned both drive-through voting and 24-hour voting, which were used for the first time during the 2020 election in Harris County, home to Houston and a growing number of the state's Democratic voters. And finally, in politics, pending an environmental review, President Biden will suspend oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska. On to culture. On the day of the San Jose shooting, Samuel Cassidy, the gunman, was scheduled to attend a work disciplinary meeting about alleged racist remarks. This next report from the Daily Beast. American soldiers guarding nuclear weapons in Europe have used online flashcard apps to study for their jobs. In the process, inadvertently, and I quote, revealing a multitude of sensitive security protocols about U.S. nuclear weapons and the bases at which they are stored, according to open source intelligence collective Bellingcat. Some publicly visible flashcards spotted by Bellingcat researchers specified the exact number of surveillance cameras and their locations on certain bases, security features, and unique identifiers found on restricted area badges and secret duress words used by base personnel. They've also exposed buildings where keys to aircraft shelters are kept, locations of backup generators, and details of release codes that open the vaults in which nuclear weapons are stored. Some of the flashcards have been viewable online since 2013, according to Bellingcat, which said the information covered the time period up to at least April 2021. Oops. According to a report via The Blaze, the Pentagon is investigating what appears to be a swarm of UFOs circling the Navy ship USS Omaha. The 2019 video was leaked on the internet, and now officials are looking into this. NASA announced that it will be returning to Venus for the first time in over 3 decades. They will send robotic planetary missions called Da Vinci Plus and Veritas, and are expected to launch in the later portion of this decade. And finally, on Tuesday, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce declared the national labor shortage a crisis. One of the startling statistics is the 1.4 workers per job, which is 50% lower than what it has been for the last 20 years. On to health. The CDC updated its summer camp guidelines to allow fully vaccinated people to return to activities as normal, saying that it is safe to return to full capacity without masking and without physical distancing. This from a tweet from Governor Gavin Newsom. California is launching a $116.5 million giveaway for vaccinated Californians. He tweeted on Thursday, $15 million in cash prizes for 10 winners selected on the 15th of June, $50K for winners on the 4th and the 11th. Already vaccinated? You're entered. Not vaccinated? Next 2 million that get vaccinated can also get a $50 gift card. He is facing a recall. A whistleblower from the ranks of Facebook came forward to argue that FB will curb any post that appears to be hesitant of the vaccine. Morgan Common, a former data center technician for the social media giant, said that anything that questions the vaccine or the narrative regarding the vaccine, which is, everyone should get the vaccine and the vaccine is good, and you're not going to get many bad side effects. Anything outside of that realm is basically considered under vaccine hesitancy by Facebook's algorithms. They're afraid of what people might conclude if they see that other people are having negative side effects. They think that this is going to drive up vaccine hesitancy among the population, and they see that as something that they have to combat. On Thursday, Dr. Fauci this from the BBC on Dr. Fauci's email revelations. As many of you may know, Dr. Fauci's emails were revealed to the public under FOIA, and this is BBC's report. On Thursday, Dr. Fauci maintained there is nothing untoward in an email exchange between himself and an executive from a medical nonprofit organization that helped fund research at a disease institute in Wuhan, the Chinese city where COVID-19 was first reported. The NIH, which is a U.S. public health agency, gave $600,000 to the Wuhan Institute of Virology from 2014 to 2019 via a grant to the New York-based nonprofit group EcoHealth Alliance for the purpose of researching bat coronaviruses. Peter Daszak, head of EcoHealth Alliance, emailed Dr. Fauci in April 2020 praising him as brave for seeking to debunk the lab leak theory. Many thanks for the kind note, Dr. Fauci replied. Dr. Fauci told CNN on Thursday that it was nonsense to infer from the email any cozy relationship between himself and the figures behind the Wuhan lab research. On to sports. Kyle Larson won the NASCAR Coca-Cola Series 600 last Sunday, which helped set the record for all-time Cup Series wins at 269, and this is set by Hendrick Motorsports. Medina Spirit has been suspended by Churchill Downs following the Kentucky Derby. The horse, trained by Bob Baffert, tested positive to a drug test post-race. Any horse trained at the stables of Baffert is suspended from the Derby through 2022. Reckless practices and substance violations that jeopardize the safety of our equine and human athletes or compromise the integrity of our sports are not acceptable, Bill Carnstingen, chief executive Churchill Downs, said. Mr. Baffert's record of testing failures threatened public confidence in thoroughbred racing and the reputation of the Kentucky Derby. And finally, this report from The Blaze. On Tuesday, Governor DeSantis signed into law the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which prohibits biological males who identify as transgender females from competing on female sports teams, both in high school and at the collegiate level. The purpose of the law, according to DeSantis, is to protect the integrity of women's sports. The bill that we're doing today will ensure fairness for women athletes for years to come in the state of Florida, DeSantis said. It says that the athletic teams or sports that are designated for females are open to females and we're going to go based off biology. And finally, some good news. A Christian PE teacher has been suspended for declaring that a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. Byron Tanner Cross, at a school board meeting, argued against a new curriculum that would require all teachers to use a student's preferred pronoun. Since then, he has been placed on administrative leave. More on why this is a good thing in the brief breakdown. If you have enjoyed the Brief Newsbrief podcast, then consider giving TLG Radio a follow wherever you get your podcasts. Also, keep up with all things Brief Newsbrief by following on Facebook at The Life Given News and Instagram at The Life Given Radio. If you have a tip or want to hear more about a story, I would encourage you to email me at thebriefnewsbrief@gmail.com. In conclusion, remember who the real enemy is. Ephesians 6:12. God bless, and I will speak with you next Friday, or in just a moment, for the brief breakdown. Okay, we are going to kick off the brief breakdown where I do offer more opinion and more bias. I try to avoid that in the brief news brief reporting segment, but this is more to give you some food for thought for the rest of the week until we talk next time. One thing that I would like to point out, and this is something that has stuck with me for the last few weeks, as we've gotten further and further away from January, further and further away from the end of the election, is that politics fades to the background, at least for the next 3 years, until we start gearing up again. And something that I want to point out here overall in the brief breakdown. We're about to read this report from The Blaze. It's almost the entire thing, but I wanted to read you some of the important segments from that report on that Christian PE teacher that got suspended. And the overall point that I would like to drive home, and we'll touch base again at the end of this report, is simply this. Politics does not end just because the election ends. We can't just grow too weary of it. It will come for all of us, whatever it is. And it won't stop just because the election is over. No, politics is happening all around us because we make it up. Society makes up what exists in politics. Society comes together, and they are a political body. They are a political entity. Any community is a political entity. And toward that end, I would just encourage you to use what resources that you have and what time that you have to reasonably stay up to date on things, to prepare yourself, and to not be caught on the defensive. So let's pick up where we left off with this Christian PE teacher who was placed on administrative leave. He said, "It's not my intention to hurt anyone, but there are certain truths that we must face when ready. We condemn school policies like 80-40 and 83-50, because it will damage children and defile the holy image of God." He added, "I love all my students, but I will never lie to them regardless of the consequences. I'm a teacher, but I serve God first. I will not affirm that a biological boy can be a girl and vice versa, because it's against my religion. It's lying to a child, it's abuse to a child, and it's sinning against our God." In an email, the report goes on, reportedly obtained by PACT and shown to Fox News, Leesburg Elementary Principal Sean Lacey informed parents that Cross had been placed on administrative leave. And I quote, "I'm contacting you to let you know that one of our physical education teachers, Tanner Cross, is on leave beginning this morning. In his absence, his duties will be covered by substitute staff already working in our building. I wanted you to know this because it may affect your student's school routine. Because this involves a personnel matter, I can offer no further information." Loudoun County Public Schools confirmed to Fox News that Lacey sent the email regarding Cross, but noted that the decision to place an employee on leave is not the principal's. The spokesperson went on to say the contents of personnel files are confidential under state and federal law. I cannot comment other to say that Mr. Cross is on administrative leave with pay. According to LCPS documents, Policy 8040 specifies that school staff shall, at the request of a student or parent legal guardian, when using a name or pronoun to address the student, use the name and pronoun that corresponds to their gender identity. The use of gender-neutral pronouns are appropriate. It adds inadvertent slips in the use of names or pronouns may occur. However, staff or students who intentionally and persistently refuse to respect a student's gender identity by using the wrong name and gender pronoun are in violation of this policy. Policy 8350, right, so remember there's two policies he cited, states LCPS staff shall allow gender-expansive and transgender students to participate in such activities in a manner consistent with the student's gender identity. Now, this happened in Loudoun County. It can happen in Latah County. it can happen in any county across the U.S. Be prepared. Be aware of the workplace that you're currently inhabiting and working in, because these things are going to happen to you at some point or another, and you're going to be called to give a witness, called to give a statement for the truth that is within, and that truth is not your truth, rather that is the universal truth of Christ's saving grace, and also of his double-edged sword of love and truth, and love and light, and it can hurt sometimes. So just to put this out there, prepare every moment that you can, and do not be surprised when that happens to you. Until next time, remember who the real enemy is. Ephesians 6:12. God bless, and I will speak with you all next Friday.